Welcome to Nightique. I'm Edward St. Pé. Well, tonight we'll meet a proponent of a new philosophy, the philosophy of putting aside the social media and the cell phone and the internet and the computers. It's called Escape the Machine, and we've got a representative who is a proponent of that philosophy, and he's going to talk to us about how our quality of life will improve if we just move away from the technology, at least for part of the day, and not live with it day and night. Also, we've got a representative of Jackson State University from Institutional Advancement that will talk to us about what they're up to these days and how they're trying to push Jackson State forward as a university across the nation. Stay tuned for this edition of Nightique.
Ingalls Shipbuilding has pioneered the development and production of technologically advanced, highly capable warships for the U.S. Navy, Coast Guard, and Marine Corps for more than 75 years. Ingalls is Mississippi's largest manufacturing employer, and today Ingalls has an immediate need for more than 200 electricians at our Pascagoula, Mississippi site. Apply today at www.buildyourcareer.com or call 888-935-1507.
When you are looking to further your education, there's only one university that towers above the rest, Jackson State University. Jackson State University is one of the leading universities in research, technology, and innovation, graduating more than 1,300 students annually and a consistent growth in revenue. Jackson State University is ranked #1 amongst the HBCUs in research and development. Make the right choice, the one choice, one Jackson State University, changing lives one student at a time.
Well, Adrian Scott is with us from Institutional Advancement at Jackson State University, and thanks for coming. First off, I want to ask you, I mean, the big news out of Jackson and Jackson State in general is the fact that I think the enrollment is at the highest level it's ever been at, right?
That is correct, and enrollment has actually been on a steady incline over the last 3 years or since the arrival of Dr. Myers.
And how are you handling this? I mean, has this been a big transition with a big influx of students coming in?
Well, this year we had our largest influx of freshmen, and so we've made that adjustment. I think we've adjusted well to having such a large group of students enrolled on the campus, and it really says what Jackson State is doing well throughout not only the state of Mississippi, but throughout our nation, as we have lots of students who are in from other states for our enrollment.
And so you are the special assistant to the vice president of institutional advancement.
That is correct.
Well, what does that exactly mean? What do you guys do in institutional advancement?
Well, our main function is to advance the university by building partnerships and strengthening relationships throughout the community. And we do that through pretty much fundraising, through our marketing and communication efforts, through community engagement, and then through special events.
And raising money.
Raising money falls within all those categories, yes.
All those categories.
Yes.
So that's the main thing.
That is the main function, to secure private funds for the university.
I guess Jackson State would be looked upon as one of the leading black universities in America, right?
That is correct. We are actually the 4th largest HBCU currently in the nation.
Mm-hmm. And if folks across the state would like to find out more information about Jackson State and the various things that are going on, is there a website?
There is a website. You can certainly visit us at www.jsums.edu.
And of course, this program, Nightique, is produced at Jackson State University, and we're in markets around the state, and we love being at Jackson State University and working with the meteorology department and the communications department and everything that's going on.
This is a fine example of those types of partnerships that we talk about building within the community with outside entities and bringing them in with their expertise to show not only us, but also to benefit our students in what they do.
It's a win-win. Jackson State is a real treasure in the Jackson market, and if you haven't discovered Jackson State, you need to discover it because it's a great place.
It's a very great place to be, a very great place to work. I'm excited. I'm very new here, not only to Jackson State University, but I'm very new to the city of Jackson, and so I feel like I've been introduced to the city and to the university campus very well within the last 6 weeks. So I'm very excited about where the college is going. I'm very excited to be a part of the mission that that Dr. Carolyn Myers is pushing for the college.
Well, we're here, Nightique is here, and when you've got something to talk about around the state, please stop in again, okay?
We most certainly will.
Okay, Adrian, thank you.
Thank you so very much.
That's Adrian Scott. We'll be back in a moment, and we'll talk a little bit about the philosophy of relinquishing the high tech and all the gadgets we use every day. It's escape the machine. We'll be talking to a proponent of that philosophy when we come back with more of Nightique. Stay tuned.
Yeah, I'm a roach whisperer. I've just always had a way with them. Now, roaches are stubborn, nasty insects, and sometimes you just gotta be forceful with them. Hi, roach, be gone. You're not welcome here, roach.
There is a better way. Bengal Roach Spray. No odor, no mess, no roaches. Bengal Roach Spray really works.
And if whispering don't work, I always got my backup plan.
When you are looking to further your education, there's only one university that towers above the rest, Jackson State University. Jackson State University is one of the leading universities in research, technology, and innovation, graduating more than 1,300 students annually and a consistent growth in revenue. Jackson State University is ranked #1 amongst the HBCUs in research and development. Make the right choice, the one choice, one Jackson State University, changing lives one student at a time.
Welcome back to the show. We've got Dr. Luis Almeida, and
Yes.
thank you for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you.
Now, you are a communications professor
Yes.
at Jackson State. Now, when we first met, you told me about this philosophy, this program that's growing around the country, Escape the Machine.
Yes.
Escape the Machine is sort of a movement where the proponents of this philosophy are saying, let's move away from social media, let's move away from being connected to the computer and the cell phone and all these devices 24/7. Is that right?
That is correct. The movement, however, is not that we should not use technology. Let's start with that, right? Because it's not about not using the computer, not going to the computer, not going to social media, but being aware of some of the side effects, right? The importance of using computer technology reasonably in moderation. So Escape the Machine is actually a call to action to be aware of some of the things that happens to us, right? When we're constantly on a computer. Yeah.
Okay, so for maybe adults, older folks who are not hardwired into it, that might be easy to do. But what about young people who have been born with the digital cord connected to them from the time, you know, they can remember they've been using devices? How do they disconnect from time to time?
Well, it's going to be a little difficult in the beginning because of what I like to call technological conditioning. So the new generations is not even addicted to technology. They're being conditioned to use in such a way that in order to break that conditioning is going to be tough. But in terms of awareness and trying to explain that maybe there is life beyond the screen, right? So there is life, well, sometimes you have to escape the machine and go play sports, or escape the machine and, well, let's exercise, right? To escape the machine and have a conversation. So we could be having more open conversations with the youth on the importance of using those devices in moderation. And that's one of the calls to action that we have with Escape the Machine, which again, I like to emphasize that it's not that I'm anti-technology. I love technology, but I control my life, right? Technology does not control the way that I think that we should be living. So maybe the students would benefit a little bit in understanding that.
So moderation.
Yep.
Not being plugged in 24/7.
Exactly.
I noticed with little research into this movement, this card is a big part of it. People show this card, right? And tell us about that part of it.
Yeah, well, it's a regular design. So in order to be able to talk about technology, we use technology, right? Because there was the symbol, right? Is a logo that was produced with the Adobe Suite. So one more reason to emphasize that we are not anti-technology. Maybe we're the proponents of the use of technology moderation. So the symbol, like any other symbol, right? That they exemplify. Think about like breast cancer. There is a symbol that exemplifies this. So the idea is that we also have one for Escape the Machine.
What are some of the bad things about being plugged in 24/7?
Well, one of the things that can happen, right? I mean, imagine you get like a cell phone. Let me get my cell phone out. So as we're constantly on a cell phone, right? What ends up happening is that what's going to happen to our eyes if we're constantly looking at the screen, right? So that's one side effect. Now, the second one that I like to talk about also is the psychological side effect that comes out of these. The human brain was not made to be operating constant information overload. And as we are using those machines so constantly, without a break sometimes, that tends to overload our memories, it tends to overload our brains. And that can cause some significant problems in terms of anxiety, severe stress, sometimes even in ways on how we're going to be able to go to sleep in the evening, right? We're constantly on the computer. Well, we have to still get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a day. But if we are constantly on a computer, well, that can actually have some problems, and as we don't sleep as well as we should. And then what ends up happening is that, well, maybe we're not going to be performing as best as we should also.
So sort of a downward spiral.
Mm-hmm.
And also your wife may be screaming at you to get off the computer at night if you get, on the computer and you're spending too much time, right?
Yes,
so
indeed.
you want to have good marital relations too, right?
Well, that's the other side of it, right? So I'm not a researcher in relationships and technology. I'm a researcher of technology and how we can actually use that to use it in moderation for educational purposes. But there is a body of research that also investigates exactly that, which are some of the side effects of using social media, technology in the form of social media in affairs. So that's another area that additional researchers in technology are investigating.
So expound on that a little bit. You say affairs.
A little bit, yeah. When folks go to the internet and, well, think about a case of an affair, right? When folks will be going to social media and talking with folks that sometimes they don't know, and they begin a psychological relationship that can have an impact on their own relationships at home. So when we talk about technology, we don't like to talk about those things.
It's
right?
happening though.
Absolutely.
Facebook, and I guess the AshleyMadison.com scandal and all that would be a good application of that, right?
Exactly. And again, and like to say this so often for folks to hear that I'm not anti-technology. I love technology, but whenever we use technology to that level, it's going to have some significant side effects. It's like anything else, right? If you drink like 9 glasses of water a day, well, we're going to get sick, right? We can't be doing all of that. So whenever we use technology moderation, it tends to make us more productive. We tend to be more humane. We have to have more conversations about life with some of our friends, some of our co-workers. It allows us to exercise and sometimes, like my case, to even lose weight.
We've talked about in the past the movement of technology into robotics and such. And it's kind of a very gray area out there where robots are being perfected to the point now, and with all of the merging of the technologies, robotic activity is expanding, and it might not be long before we've got a robot with intelligence, right? Mm-hmm. That could make its own decisions and act on its own motivation. That's an interesting concept, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. Stephen Hawking spoke about this a little bit in a context of how this would actually have an impact in our society and how this could be, in fact, the destruction of the human race. See, I'm not Stephen Hawking, but what he was trying to say was that, well, there are side effects of artificial intelligence and which impact that's going to happen in our life as we understand. So I give maybe one more reason, one more scholar talking about the importance of looking at the other side of technology. And Stephen Hawking, of all folks, right, is one of the leading minds of this century, the past century and this century, still alive. So he's saying that. So I'm not the only person who is saying that there are side effects of technology, and we need to be careful about it.
Now, you've spoken about this to the folks at TEDx. You've spoken at the TEDx in, where was it? Philadelphia, right?
It's
Near
Phoenixville, yes, near Philadelphia. Like
and
suburb.
tell us a little bit about TEDx. For our viewers who may not be familiar with TEDx, what's that all about?
Well, TEDx is an independent event of the TED Talks, which is the big TED, right? And TEDx is a more intimate event that happens at the local level, where TEDx venues would put together an event with speakers to talk about issues that are relevant to our communities. So,
And this is a national situation. The TEDx events all over the country.
well, it is international.
International.
Because we have TEDx events all over the world. Now, in Phoenixville, what I end up going to, it's an interesting case because it is the oldest TEDx venue in the Philadelphia region, in Pennsylvania, in fact. And it's so close to New York City that one of the organizers of the event was actually from TEDx Maine. So the exposure of that event was actually very big. And it was a great opportunity to be able to talk about some of those issues.
How were you received at that TEDx conference?
I was received pretty well. Folks were very sympathetic, and I remember that once the talk was over, some folks were able to talk with the speakers and say, you know, they call me Luis, they don't call me Dr. Way there. I say, Luis, well, I'm now feeling even guilty of using technology. They say, no, don't feel guilty. Keep using it, just use in moderation. That's all it is, yeah. Exactly. Now, one of the things that was interesting to talk about was when I was talking with TEDx Phoenixville and having some conversations with my coach, Mark Levy, which, by the way, have done training with folks at Broadway. It was very helpful, very glad, very honored to work with him. And I said, well, Mark, maybe the call to action of this TEDx shouldn't be really like, take like a step back and, once in a while take a step back to be able to renew yourself, but to actually ask folks to actually burn out. And we're having that conversation and I asked that question, say, can we go that route? And he said, well, Luis, I'm not sure if the American population, if the public is ready to hear that yet. Because part of what that TEDx was about to explain a piece of a theory, right? It's called the Almeida computer robot human behavior. As a matter of fact, it's a hypothesis, not a theory yet. But to try to explain why those things are happening. And again, I'm not the only person who is saying that there are side effects of technology, that we're trying to behave more like a robot. But how this is actually happening, one way that is happening, is maybe my contribution to that body of research.
Another aspect of this whole conversation, if one is totally reliant on his cell phone for all of his names and phone numbers and all the data, and if you should lose that phone, you may be in big trouble, right? So we seem like we're dumbing ourselves down. We're not, we're totally relying on that device. Do you notice that?
Oh, absolutely. Funny you said that, because we had a conversation at a Lilly conference on college teaching in Miami of Ohio, where I presented exactly on that. It was an academic conference. We had a good conversation. And we start having conversations about, well, could it be that maybe, just maybe, technology is making us dumber, right? And I say, whoa, that's almost like a heresy to say, like a communications professor saying that maybe there are some side effects that are so severe.
Making us lazy anyway.
Well, I mean, how many phone numbers do you know after they have their smartphone?
I would have a serious problem remembering many numbers without the phone.
Okay.
Now here's a scenario. We travel along this path and we become, as a human species, dumber.
Yep.
And then the robots rise up and become smarter. And at some point the robots say, you know what, we've had enough of you guys. We're taking over, right?
Yeah, well, that's something called the Homo sapiens economicus, which is a very provocative term there was actually a part of an article in a Brazilian newspaper. I coined that term, basically saying that over time, because of so much of a dependence on technology, we're going to become dumber, because maybe the machines are going to be doing too many things for us. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was in college in Brazil, I was an economics student, I studied economics. There's no way my professor would allow me to use a calculator to come to a class in macroeconomics. It's impossible. But now you take the calculator out, can our students calculate? Right? Take the GPS out. Can folks find where they're going? Right?
Well, I couldn't.
Well,
I don't guess.
right? So again, we have to be careful not to overuse those tools in thinking that those tools are going to be the panacea or the solution to every problem that we have. Now, Katrina, not that far from where we are, right? When we had the disaster in Katrina, folks were not using the new media, they were using the old media. They're using the CB radios, right? That's how they were able to communicate under the disaster. So I think it would be very problematic for us to ignore the fact that what's going to happen is that we're going to have always being reliant on new technology and things like this. We have to be careful.
Okay, we're going to take a break. We're talking to Dr. Luis Almeida, and we're talking about how to unplug from technology for at least a little while during the 24-hour cycle and try to recalibrate our normal brains. We're going to talk to him more after this. Stay tuned.
Your on-air career journey begins at broadcastdemo.tv. Both recent graduates as well as seasoned news and weather veterans need an updated and fresh demo tape to apply for those on-air positions across the country. At broadcastdemo.tv, a one-day visit to our WeatherVision studio, and you'll have an HD and digitally edited demo tape that you'll be proud of. Broadcastdemo.tv. Invest in yourself. Ingalls Shipbuilding has pioneered the development and production of technologically advanced, highly capable warships for the U.S. Navy, Coast Guard, and Marine Corps for more than 75 years. Ingalls is Mississippi's largest manufacturing employer, and today Ingalls has an immediate need for more than 200 electricians at our Pascagoula, Mississippi site. Apply today at www.buildyourcareer.com or call 888-935-1507.
We're talking to Dr. Luis Almeida. He's a professor of communications, and we're talking about escape the machine, which is a philosophy that is emerging right now, and Dr. Almeida has spoken to TEDx events on this subject. Mm-hmm. How do we moderate our usage of technology? And it's not easy to do.
No, it's not. It's definitely not easy to do. Now, how do you moderate that is a very, very important question. The way of how we have spoken about some techniques on how to do this is that if we're constantly on a computer, that means being on a cell phone, right, or being on a smartphone, right, or being a tablet, or being on television, or being on laptop, desktop. It's not even being connected to television, which is really not that different. It's still a computerized device, right? One of the things that we could do to try to disconnect a little bit is to pace ourselves and see some of the behaviors that we actually expect on a machine. So for example, when we are constantly on a computer, right, and we are under a little bit of work, so we start getting a little warmer, we feel the heat, right? So that is a condition that may be an expression of stress that our body is trying to tell us. Maybe it is a time to put it away. If we are on a computer, on, let's say on a cell phone, for like 45 minutes and we start feeling that pain in our eyes, well, maybe it is a time to maybe get out and not be looking at the screen again.
Are there any studies that indicate depression could be linked to this?
Oh, I'm not a psychologist, let's make that clear, but it is. There absolutely is a connection between overuse of computer technology and depression and anxiety. So this is a real issue.
You know, one thing I read a while back was, for example, if we had an electromagnetic pulse, mm-hmm. and sun flare, whatever, whether it's man-made or natural, it would knock out so many of our devices and computers and cell phones and everything else. It would really, not to mention electric power and everything else, that would really set the snowball rolling, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and again, it comes back to that discussion that we had, right? That we have to be careful not to totally rely on the new technology. There are good benefits of print media. There is outstanding benefits of the case of traditional radio, as you saw an example of Katrina.
Right.
So I love technology. I would love to see, I'm one of those folks who are waiting for the next iPhone to come in. I love technology. I've done so much work in that area. This is what I do for a living, right? But that doesn't mean that there are no side effects of technology, and that's what this is really all about.
Is
right?
there a website that folks can go to find out more information about Escape the Machine?
There is a Twitter feed, which is at Escape the Machine, which we have daily postings on folks sharing some of the ways that they're escaping the machine and trying to be more using technology more in moderation. So indeed it is, and it's available. Hey, at
So
Escape
we get
the
on the
Machine.
computer to find out about how to escape the computer, right?
Exactly, because, but let's not forget that it's not about not using the computers to use the computer in moderation.
In moderation. It's like
That's the
anything
thing.
else. Try to be moderate in all things, right?
That's exactly right.
Well, Dr. Almeida, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We appreciate your insight on this whole topic. And I think it's a great thing to be talking about, because everybody, old and young, is connected, right?
Yes.
And very connected. We're getting more connected.
Yes, indeed.
You could probably live a whole rest of your life and not see a human being. Just stay connected to everything. You know what I mean? Just talk to them over the device, and then look at them over a monitor, Skype, whatever, and never see a person, right?
That is exactly.
You could probably do it.
It's coming.
At this point, it's coming. All right. Okay. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us tonight on Nightique. See you next time. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.